Meeting to order. We'll stand and for the pledge of allegiance, please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Here we have currently board members present. Board member Roll, Ossendorf, Bjornstedt, Tiff, and myself, and remotely is board member Schoenfelder. Board member Buck is ill this evening and will not be able to join us. Next for us, before we get into our things, we have meeting agenda. Is there an addition to the meeting agenda from workshop? Yes.
Could we add under communications number 8, policy review for email public comment?
Shouldn't that be a action item?
Well, we're just giving you direction, the action and policy comes back, right?
Alright, so where should it be?
So what I understood from the
Oh.
workshop was, is that should be in a business item.
Okay.
That would be public comment emails.
Alright, I stand corrected. Number 3 under business item? Okay.
Let's move 2 and 3 around though, so we don't go in closed session.
Oh,
and come back in
yeah.
A regular session. So we'll move number 2, the superintendent evaluation closed session, and number 3, and number 2 is that. I'll see the public comment. Anybody else have anything further? Anything else? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the amended agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Ossendorf, is there a second? By Ms. Rowe, excuse me.
I'll second, I'm sure.
Second by Ms. Ossendorf, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Bjornstedt,
Aye.
Ossendorf,
Aye.
Ms. Rowe,
Aye.
Ms. Schoenfelder,
Aye.
Ms. Tiff,
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We're gonna go into a truth and taxation hearing before we go to the, our educational revision, because that's right at 6 o'clock. I'll call the order of the truth and taxation hearing for Reading Public Schools.
Thank you, Chair Bryant. This evening, my name is Lisa Ryder, Director of Finance and Operations for Red Wing Public Schools. And this evening, we have our Truth and Taxation Public Hearing for Taxes Payable 2025. And we will be following a slide presentation here with information, and it does also include the opportunity for public comment. Next slide. So these hearings need to include 3 components. One is a discussion of the background around property tax levies and budgets, information about the current district budget, information on the proposed tax levy for taxes payable, and we must include an opportunity for comments and questions. With that, next slide. We will begin the presentation. School funding is highly regulated. And so as you can see by this slide, there are formulas, tax policies, and the maximum authorized amount that a district can levy that are all set by the state. The state also does authorize the school board then to submit referendums. So next slide. School boards are able to participate in the state education programs for the benefit of our children that are financed entirely by levy and or a combination of levy and state aid. School board also has the ability to ask voters to approve referendums for a general operations or a major capital project. And school boards can only decrease the levy from the parameters set by the legislature without an election after September 30th. So you can't increase it. The only reason it could increase would be as a result of an election. Next slide. So when you have these levies, and these are levies that are approved by the school board for the district portion, and then taxpayers can see on their property tax statement the school district portion, the city, the township, the county portion. And on those statements, then the funds that are generated through the property tax process, they get used by the city, township, and county on a different time period than what school districts use those funds. So this is a diagram to show that legislation occurs usually from January to May, and session ends, and those are then interpreted and come into play. The tax levy decisions are made always from August to December by all parties, but for a city, a township, or a county, those dollars are used for calendar 2025 right away. Whereas school districts, there's a bit of a delay. The dollars are collected by the county from our taxpayers during the calendar year 2025. However, though they go towards our July through June fiscal year, that starts in that calendar year. So pay 25 will be for our fiscal year 25-26, and that's how that will work for us as a school district. Next slide. Something to consider is the, oftentimes you'll hear the conversation around the general education formula and its increase. As you can tell from this slide, this is something that we do keep an eye on. The dotted line references the dollars that school districts do receive per pupil unit, and that means our student counts basically, and our high schoolers, our 7th through 12th graders, are weighted a little heavier with a 1.2 times their ADM, average daily membership. But the dollar amount we receive per the pupil unit is that $7,281. Whereas if throughout these years, the dollars that would have been allocated, had that been increased by the inflation each year since 2003, you can see how that number is quite a bit of a different figure. So we have $8,645 that could have been if we had seen the rate of inflation applied each year. The gap there is around $1,364 per pupil unit. So that's a significant difference and something just to keep in mind as school funding is discussed. One of the requirements for school districts is to complete what we call an expenditure and revenue report for the fiscal year of what was just audited, as well as then the budget for the current year. So this is the template that is out there on our website. It is due and required by the end of November because it was a weekend. Today's that deadline. So this is on our website, available at the location you see right below the header there. This does describe the first column of numbers being the beginning balances, your fund balances for every one of your funds, and those dollars that were available at the beginning of last July 1, 2024. Okay. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. July 1, 2023. And so then you see the actual audited numbers for 24 fiscal year, 23-24 school year. Revenues is the second column over. Expenditures, the third column over. And then the ending fund balances that have now been audited in the center there, that is yellow. That is the funded fund balances that have been audited as of June 30, 2024. They become our beginning fund balance numbers then for our next school year. And the numbers reflected in the next two columns for the FY25 budget revenue and FY25 budget expenditure are reflective of our adopted 2025 fiscal year 25 budget. There is a projected fund balance ending column there that just shows what we anticipate those numbers to look like, given the budgets that we have established at this point in time under the adopted 25 budget. This page is available again in full form and where you can read it even easier by just going to that website link if you like. Next slide, please. This is a reflection of our enrollment past and our projected enrollment. So this is referring to our average daily membership. So this is our student counts, you might say, for each of the fiscal years. So we went back to 21-22 school year, and then you can see those numbers of our enrollment projection. As you reach the light purple, those numbers now become our 24-25 current year and the next 2 years, which are projected. And those are the figures that were used in the levy process that is also discussed tonight. Next slide, please. We're going to talk now a little bit about our current budget and how that also reflects compared to our audited numbers in graphic form. This first slide is about revenues. What's interesting to me is as you look at the two pie charts, you might think that they're identical. They are very, very close well, it's certainly identical almost in graphic form here, except for the headers, but the fact is the numbers are that close, right? So from one year to the other, the revenue is percentage-wise very similar, okay? As we look at the comparison for our expenditures, next slide, please. You will find a slight difference here on some of these figures, but again, also still very similar. One thing else to note on this is that oftentimes districts look at seeing the salaries and the benefits equaling up to around 70%, and that being a common theme that you might see across schools. We're a little bit lower than that simply because we do have a number of purchase staff that we consider under the category that is the gray purchase services. And so they don't show up in the first salary and benefit column because they are instead hired by, in this case, GCED, and then we purchase those services from them for our special education needs in some of the areas of need. So as a result, then that's a little different looking for us compared to what might be seen in other schools. Next slide, please. We're now going to slide into talking more about the levy process and the timeline. So as you can see here in September on the 8th, the process began for us where we had entered information into the system for Minnesota Department of Education, and they then prepared these pages that we call our levy sheets. And those about 40 pages long are something that we then pour over for the next few weeks and try and make sure that the numbers are accurate and the estimates are appropriate. And it's then at the preliminary meeting that you approve that preliminary budget, or excuse me, preliminary levy. And in this past year and the year priors, I've understood you to always do the maximum, which allows then for if there are any changes between September and December, that those adjustments then are able to be reflected in the final. So as a result then, September 16th, that was approved with a maximum amount. Mid-November, property tax statements were prepared for our taxpayers in our community and sent out with that proposed amount. Tonight is December 2nd for the public hearing. And then December 16th, it would be on the board agenda for the school board to certify those final levy amounts. That is a process that every school district must complete before the end of December on an annual basis. Again, this will be then for the numbers that are for payable 2025, collected by the county from our taxpayers during calendar 2025, and then used in our fiscal year 25-26 school year. Next slide. Thank you. Here's a comparison of how the current levy we're talking about, which is called Pay 25, and in the center of the page, how that compares to the previous year's levy. And so this is broken down by general fund, community service fund, and debt redemption fund. As you look at this, I will take note of the fact that on MDE's webpage, you would find that the numbers look a little different just because our ice arena, they list under general fund, but because we function that under the community services fund, that is where it's showing here. So that's just a switch between those two funds there. Totals are the same. As you look across, you will see that there is a decrease identified there for the general fund. Community service fund is a slight increase, and our debt redemption fund is a decrease. And we're going to talk in a moment about the reasons why. The changes you can see off to the far right in dollar form as well as percentage form. This does reflect a 3.99% decline overall. Next slide, please. So as we look at what makes up that general fund, these are the various different categories that you would see that the levy is made up of, broken down, and I have them just every other line color-coded so that you could see across a little easier. And you can see the payable 24 levy compared to the payable 25, which is in the center of the numbers, and then the increase decreases over on the far right. Taking a look at this, the first lines 1 through 3 are all really a reflection of the formulas that are used to calculate the aid and referendum dollar amounts that are reflected as a component of the enrollment that we have of students that we serve, not necessarily residents, but served. And then you see a line there for operating capital. The 3 top lines, though, as I just mentioned, those are a decline as a result of that change in enrollment. The operating capital, That shows a slight increase. That's largely just due to the formula changes there. And then our achievement and integration, that is a matter of, in one year we had A&I or achievement and integration funding. In the next year we did not. And so when you levy for something and then you don't have it the following year, you usually see those adjustments coming through. It's taken 2 years for those adjustments to come through, but one year was more significant than the other. That's the reason for that adjustment there. The reemployment, this line item, I just want to mention the fact that after the pandemic, and particularly during, the reemployment was a very different process and number. Districts were accustomed to like putting out an estimate, and then when that estimate wasn't exactly accurate, when it got trued up, then you saw a lot of adjustments happening. We're now reaching a point where that's kind of evened out and everything's kind of taken care of from the past. And so what you see now in the pay 25 column for the 12,576, that's a little more reflective of what is typical and normal for us. This does not include the reemployment dollars that are available due to statute changes in 23 that afforded reemployment for summer employees. That is funded separately and differently at this time and not a part of this levy. Next slide, please. The Community Service Fund, you can see again, same type of information. You have the payable 24 numbers on the left. In the middle is the payable 25 and the increase decrease over on the far right. Very similar in nature. The numbers are fairly close to what they were in the previous years. School age care being a little bit more increased as a result of actuals for past years coming in a little higher than what we had initially levied for. And then overall, though, it is a slight increase there of 18,817. Next slide, please. Our general debt service and our OPEB fund, these are combined here, and you will see that there is a reduction here. Again, same information, payable 24 compared to payable 25, increase, decrease on the far right, and that $197,000 deduction or reduction is a result of our debt service actually being completed for one of our issuances, and so therefore the amount that we are requiring and needing for principal and interest payments is less by that figure. As you turn to the next slide, this is a discussion then of the reasons for the decreases in the total levy, and there were 3 primary reasons that have come through. The first being levies dependent upon the enrollment that is projected, and the reduction in debt due to the completion of a bond issues payments, and then the reduction in typical reemployment levies. We're now going to slide over to the conversation around what is the impact to our taxpayers as a result. So this slide talks about the fact that there are many factors, and I'm going to repeat this later, and the reason is it's kind of important. What we talk about next may or may not exactly match your individual property tax statement, and so there's different reasons why that would be the case. It could be the change in your individual property's value. It could be the change in total value of all the property within the district that has influenced those dollars or amounts that are calculated. And it also can be the increases or decreases on our individual line items for our levy that we are requesting. Next slide, please. We're going to talk about a 4-year school levy comparison so you can see the impact to taxpayers over the last 4 years. As a part of this, some of the slides are going to show us as if there were no value change in property, and some of the slides instead are going to show us what if there was a 16.6% increase that was experienced instead included in these slides, and how did that impact that? So you can see kind of what that change meant. So the amounts that you're going to see are preliminary estimates. Final amounts could still change slightly, and these estimates have been prepared by Ellers, our municipal financial advisors. Next slide, please. This is a numeric table that will be depicted in graphic form as we move forward. But for those who like to see numbers and columns of numbers, this might work well for you. I encourage, if you're going to view this, maybe pull it up so you can see it on PDF and then zoom in, right? Because there's a lot of numbers there. But in essence, it's taking the type of property of residential versus commercial industrial, and it's showing, based on these estimated market values that you see in the first column of numbers, what were then the actual taxes payable in 22. Next column, actual taxes payable in 23, and then 24, and then the estimated taxes that are payable in 25 based on the numbers we have tonight. Those changes from 22 to 25, a 4-year gap or change there, you can see in dollar form. And then the last column is showing that change in taxes just for the past year, from payable 24 to payable 25. All right, let's move on to the next slide, which will then show more graphic representation of residential homestead property. These two slides are both for residential homestead property. One is for $300,000 value home on the left, and on the right is the $500,000 value home. This is over a 4-year period, and this slide is based on no changes in property value. So this is assuming the property value stayed the same, but what was the impact to taxpayers just on our levy dollar amounts? And that's what you're seeing here then reflected. You see it in bar graph form. You can see it goes from 985 down to 771 if you're looking at a $300,000 value home. And then you see the columns for the $500,000 home and the impact there from 1,658 down to 1,311. Next slide, please. Next slide here now refers to commercial and industrial property. Here we're valuing a $500,000 property on the left, and on the right is the $1 million value property for commercial industrial. Again, 4 years of information being shown as to what that tax is. This is again based upon an assumption of no change in property value. So assuming that value didn't change at all in those 4 years, what was the tax impact based on our request for taxes? So you can see those numbers there and how that is reflected in graphic form. Next slide. We're moving back to our residential conversation here, only this time we're taking a look at what's the impact when you include the percentage increase in value. So as homeowners' values increased, how did that impact those numbers? And if you were to compare this slide to the one previous, you would find that these bars are far more level. There's not as much of a difference between the 4 years ago levy compared to the most current, right? And so that is the change in valuation that impact has on these dollars. We might have a much greater reduction in our levy, but because of the valuation in property taxes, that wasn't necessarily seen as much, okay? And so that's true then for the 300,000 value home or the 500,000 value home, as you can see in this graphic form. We're going to move away from now the conversation around the tax impact to individual families and homes and talk a little bit about some information that was shared with us. When you compare Red Wing Public School and you take a look at the total property taxes under the payable 24, not the most current one we're talking about tonight, but the one last year we talked about, because that's more final, right? On a $300,000 value home across all of these different schools, you can see how we compare in the dollar amounts that we receive in tax levy from our taxpayers compared to what other school districts may receive. It's informational in nature, just to be shared so people understand kind of, well, where are we at in the mix of things, okay? Next slide, please. This is a repeat of information we shared earlier, and I'm repeating it now because as we talk the last few slides, we're talking about what about those folks who might be on a fixed income or might have other reasons in which they need to take a look at obtaining a property tax refund, right? So again, keeping in mind that what we talked about tonight and those valuations may not exactly match your own property tax statement for these 3 reasons. So the thinking is that you need to just consider what is the rationale or what is the reason, for the increase or decrease in your property taxes. If you're looking for a property tax refund, then you'd be looking at increases that meet the qualification. And as we go to the next slide, this is a reminder for those who might be on fixed income that they should inquire of a tax professional regarding the eligibility for those property tax refunds. It's something we want to make sure people are aware of and are encouraged to take a look into should this be something that is necessary for them. And our next slide talks about our next board action. After tonight's presentation, this then will be presented in a little bit more detailed form at the next school board meeting for final certification, which is required by the end of December every year. And that would be something that, with this information prepared tonight, as well as additional detailed information for next week, the board would then make their decision and take action. Our last slide is around questions or comments, and if there is any public or comment questions, this would be the time.
Thank you. Mr. Ritter, are there any questions by the board before we open it up for any public comment on this levy, 2025 levy? No? Okay, does anybody in the audience wish to comment on the 2025 levy, is the truth and taxation hearing? Come forward, please. State your name, please.
Michael Holmes. It's just a quick question. I noticed you guys are specifically talking about $300,000 homes and $500,000 homes. What about the people who can't afford a $300,000 home, let alone a $500,000 home?
It's scalable.
Well, basically what I'm asking is, why are we talking about, how come we're not talking about everything? Because my house didn't cost $300,000. And I'm pretty sure there's a few other people in here whose houses didn't cost $300,000, but we're talking about a $300,000 house.
The reason for that is that's the median property value of a home in the Redmond School District. So that's the middle.
$300,000 is the middle in Red Wing? That's interesting. All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Good question. Thank you. Anybody else wish to talk about the 2025 levy?
So
Just a minute, we got public comment here. Please, anybody else? One more time, anybody else wish to speak to the public comment? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to close the public comment portion of the truth and taxation hearing. Is there a motion to do that? I'll second. Any discussion, otherwise roll call vote, Ms. Schoenfelder?
Aye.
Ms. Rowe?
Aye.
Ms. Ossendorf?
Aye.
Ms. Bjornstedt?
Aye.
Ms. Stiff?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Ms. Bjornstedt?
So just a question, Michael's question made me think of a question. So then when we report this for the state and for the truth and taxation hearing, then depending on where you live, they do the median and then,
So we selected the median
okay,
for this presentation.
okay,
But if, let's say that we have a home in a district that's worth $100,000, you take the $300,000 and just scale it down, divide by 3. That should
that's
get
how you can figure it out.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, you did have a chart with that information on it
Yep.
too as well.
Yes.
Yep, there is the, if you go to the chart with all the numbers and all of the columns, that does have the various different
Oh, yeah.
values there listed, some that are less than the 300 and some that are more than those listed.
I believe the county has sent out the notices, the tax notices, and
Yep.
I know I received mine.
Yep.
I went down in the school district, and every property owner should have received them.
Correct.
Good you come. All right, no action, any other questions?
Oh,
Go ahead.
if people want to read this, because it's pretty small up there, but if individually you want to read this, you can go to the district website and under the school board, go to board book, and this is listed in the extras, right?
Correct.
And it's the truth and taxation presentation, so you can, go back and read it more at your leisure.
Thank you, Ms. Ryder.
Lisa, thank you.
Thank you. All right, go on to our mission statement, Ms. Ossendorf.
The mission of the Red Wing Public Schools is to educate and inspire all students as they realize their full potential and become respectful, responsible, and productive citizens.
Thank you. Student showcase.
Get him.
Ms. Coach.
Morning.
Hello.
On the job,
Where should we stand?
Right
Here.
behind the camera.
Grand stand. Go on the other side of the table.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sorry, we have to stand in front of
So
you.
you're good. You're gonna have a seat in front of the camera there. So everyone's gonna share.
Okay.
And they were just
All right.
gracious enough to give you seats. So we'll
Love
slide these
that.
there.
Love that,
Slide
okay.
that one down the steps.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
What?
You can put your table towards, seat one.
Don't unplug anything.
Well, I can't guarantee anything here.
more space here. There we go. All right, get on in here. All right, well, thank you so much for having us. I'm just going to do a brief introduction, and then our three students here will be talking. I'm going to read what was in the agenda, just so everybody knows exactly what we're talking about. I'm Mandy Stokes. I'm one of the assistant principals here at Red Wing High School. Red Wing High School has been working on student engagement and belonging. In addition to this work, our teachers have begun to dig into professional learning around literacy strategies to improve our student proficiency rates. This led us to working on creating space and time for both of these items to be a focal point. And now we have enrichment time on Wednesday afternoons for 30 minutes. Students sign up and have created some new clubs and organizational spaces to come together in and can make changes each week if they want to experience other spaces during this time. Our students are here to present about their experiences so far during this time, and we'll talk about the literacy work at the next school board meeting. We have currently 31 clubs that the students can choose from, and they can pick different clubs each week. And we have nine clubs that were added by students to saying, hey, well, what about this? Can we add this? And so we just kept saying yes, yes, yes. And it's been really fun to see all of the different clubs ranging from chess to Frisbee to, boy, we just have so many. These 3 clubs that you'll hear about, gaming clubs, Dungeons and Dragons, you name it, we pretty much have it or may have it coming up. So I'm going to let these 3 take over and to talk about their clubs.
Hi everyone, I'm Madison Tollefson. I'm in 11th grade and I'm president of the Fundraising for Equality Club. What we do is we fundraise each month for a new charity. The way we decide is we just get together each Wednesday and we talk about what charity we want to support. Our last charity we did was the National Coalition for Homeless Veterans, and the way we raised money for that was with the Tape a Teacher fundraiser. It was really fun. It got students, staff, teachers all involved, and overall everyone who participated had a great time. I had a great time organizing it, and in total we raised $130. So it was a great start to our club for a first fundraiser. So far, the only struggles have really been just our amount of members. We only have about 5 members total. We've been trying to get our group out there, getting people to join, saying, hey, this is a great club. We really want you to have fun and participate. So that's been our main goal for now. But otherwise, we've been good at discussion during our 30 minutes during Wednesdays. We get a lot done. We talk about upcoming fundraisers, charities we could do, ideas, and yeah, it's a pretty fun environment. We've all been having a good time, and
Thank you.
I'm Ella Eggenberger. I am a member of the Hands On Club. There are no officers. Everybody's pretty much just on the same page. We get to do different challenges, like make a loop-de-loop out of a marble track, or build Legos or other technical challenges, which allow us to develop real-world teamwork with people that we don't necessarily know, some engineering skills, real applications of math and creativity. So it's a great way to try different types of challenges and get introduced into kind of what some things that you might see in the real world are.
Thank you.
My name is Reina Marmo Lopez. I am a junior and I am the vice president of the Hispanic Student Union. Our objectives are to showcase and preserve our language and culture, and to create a safe environment for the Hispanic community within the school. Right now we're trying to just get our club out there and spread more information about our culture and try to get everybody to show us their culture. We had a cultural wear day a couple weeks ago. We had some people dress up from Guatemala, El Salvador, Mexico, Laos, I think. And we're hoping to create some fun activities for just students within our club right now. Some goals are college visits, museums. Our next field trip, we're planning to have a college visit to River Falls. So
Very good, thank you. Any questions? Well, I guess I have, how often do you meet? How long has your specific group been in existence? Because as Stokes mentions, growing all the time, so.
Our group started just at the beginning of October. That's when I emailed her about wanting to create a new group. We meet every Wednesday, but I'll contact members outside of school time and class time to talk about getting ready for new events and all that kind of stuff.
Ours mostly just meets Wednesday since we don't do like any fundraising or anything. We pretty much just do Wednesday activities, though we sometimes talk about the problems and how we solved them next time if we couldn't figure it out quite yet. It's been around since about October as well.
our club has been around for like October, September. We're just trying to get our club out there right now, get people to join. So.
Yep. All three are brand new
Yeah,
and,
they are.
yep, and we meet every Wednesday.
Some of the good things going on in our schools.
That's right.
I want to share.
Yeah.
Highlight.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
We got some certificates here for you, and we want to get your picture with the board, if you would, please.
Ooh. Some of them might not have their certificates
I only have 3 here.
Yeah,
How about you?
Some of them will.
Yeah. Those,
so yours is here. And you two will get yours. Yours is there. Okay.
yeah, you have a picture too.
These three
Yeah.
are
You guys
the
are,
main event.
this will all work good.
Advisory sample.
Ready, Ann?
All right, slide over there. All right, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. There you go. Thank you. Thanks for coming in tonight.
Thank you, everyone.
That was nice. Recognitions and upcoming events.
I think some of the big stuff is, as we enter the holiday season, jazz band innovation, we're just at the holiday stroll here this weekend. That was a really nice performance for everybody that was involved. That worked out really nicely. There's a ton of winter sporting activities that are just rolling through. If you're interested in basketball, hockey, swimming, I don't even know exactly how many sports we've got going on right now between the boys and girls clubs. There's a bunch there. The girls basketball team that got off to a nice little start. We started all 3-0, and they got a game here again tomorrow night. The boys, they had 2 games this last weekend. It sounded like there was a nice event that was here in town, a tournament that was 4 teams between Friday and Saturday, and that worked out nicely. So those are probably the big things, and then in about 15 minutes, there's actually a 6th and 7th grade concert that's held here in the high school. And next Monday at 7:30 is the high school winter concert, which is also lots of stuff going on. If you're bored, that's on you.
Be fun to go to. Anybody else have anything? I have 2. We have, the Republican Eagle, the Red Wing High School robotics team competed. And they did a nice job there. They had some breakdown, but were able to get parts from the other parts of the other groups that were there. Also, Goodyear County High School students learn and earn. Liz Diggin from GCED. And I apologize if there's other people involved I don't know. But just going by what's in the paper here, I happen to know Liz does a nice job. That's very exciting because we had some students here from Bergen High School attend that and go through that. It's really good. Good things been happening. So, anybody else? Sorry, Michael, we don't take anything, but what do you have real quick?
I'm just curious if you guys got anything planned for Kwanzaa.
For what?
Kwanzaa.
I didn't hear you, okay. We'll check with Bob, our superintendent, please. I couldn't hear you, my hearing isn't that good.
No worries. I got a big enough mouth. You'll hear me.
I know. So, all right, no other recognitions of upcoming events? Okay, public comment. I'm gonna start out public comment right now. I received 2 letters last week. The first one, I want to apologize to Liz McGill, because I misinterpreted the letter. And I read part of it, not the whole thing. My mistake, and we'll see the second letter, well, she pretty much takes me to task because of it. I'll be happy to read them, because my apologies, I messed up. I'm gonna read her first letter. And please time me, it's quite long. Once I hit 3 minutes, it's done. I don't want to be any professional. Again, I apologize. Attention, Reading Public School Board of Directors. This letter is to a formal request to cease the censure plan of action against a fellow school board member. I am hereby requesting this letter be read to all board members at the school board meeting to be held November 18th, 2024. I am writing to you to cease moving forward to censure the board member based on you as fellow school board members of her do not have the authority to censure her. There are very specific circumstances in which a school board member can be censured, none of which apply to her. As a parent of a child enrolled in this district, I'm asking for the specific policy violations of the proposed censures, and I've read policy 209 and 211, neither which apply to her regarding any behavior related to her position as a school board member that would result in her censure. There are very few circumstances that arise when a school board member can censure another school board member. One such circumstance is if a school board member makes an inappropriate comment during a school board meeting. That is an offense in which that member can be censured. Please recall that in early 2023, such a comment was made. The comment was made by a presently sitting school board member that referenced the intelligence level of white students as compared to the intelligence level of dark-skinned students. This statement played out on social media and resulted in said member having a conversation with an expert in race relations. School board member was made aware of how her words greatly hurt students such as my son, who was a senior at the time of the incident. Think of the impact on my brown-skinned son as he walked through the graduation ceremony a few months later, having to shake her hand knowing what she said about him. Think of the impact her statement had on his younger Caucasian brother as he watched his brother shake her hand knowing what she said about him and students like him. She said she would apologize to the students for her words, but almost 2 years later, my son has not had an apology. I'd like to know why her behavior, which creates a criteria for being censured, is allowed, but hers, the school board member who has not extended the behavior that fits the criteria of censure, is being targeted by this bill. As a parent, we all have concerns and fears regarding our children. As a mom who has raised both minority children and a Caucasian child in this district, I can tell you those fears are not the same. One fear I have, will continue to have, with my minority children is acceptance. That is never a fear I've experienced with my Caucasian child. I can only tell you that there have been 3 conversations I have had while raising my minority son that resonated with me to this day. They were all three based on acceptance. One of which was when the school board member, about 5 years ago, we had been acquaintances for several years. We knew each other from church, community events, sports, etc. But about 5 years ago, my son and her daughter became friends. The school board member reached out to me, let me know how pleased she was our kids were becoming better friends. I was told it was long. All right, all school board members got this letter too. But I misread it, I apologize for this. So this is the letter she can take me to task. I'm gonna read it. So, attention, Reading Public School Board of Directors. I'm asking that this letter be read during public comment during the December 2nd, 2024 Board of Directors meeting, as I'm unable to attend there in person to do so due to another meeting I am required to attend. Prior to November 18, 2024, I submitted a letter to the school board that requested it to be read at the school board meeting. On the day of the meeting at 9:11 a.m., the chair reached out to me and said the letter would not be read due to policy violation. He and I had more email exchanges before 1:20 p.m. where he stated he would read the letter with his changes, which I did. I expressed my concerns that he could not change the words in my letter, as changing the content of the letter would change the contents of the letter. During public comment, the chair did read my letter with his changes. He falsely represented my words as he limited 73% of my letter, which totally changed the context. Furthermore, the portion of the letter he chose to eliminate was about a racial incident my son encountered while he was a student in 2023. Being that racism and racial incidents that students are presently experiencing was such a big part of the past school board meetings, it's quite disturbing that he chose to ignore my concerns regarding racism as stated in my letter. During the November 18th school board meeting, 3 different people spoke in caution of setting a precedent regarding censoring a school board member. A precedent, in simple terms, is a launching pad. It's an action taken based on past behavior or experience that sets the groundwork for future action. The school board voted to censor their own member at the last meeting. They established a policy of how to respond to future board member behavior. In closing line of my letter, the chair read, I encourage the board not to take any action that would put the board and community in position or you present in a situation that could cause fiduciary harm to the public school system. The chair's action the chair's actions that night did just that. He falsely represented himself. He ignored a racial situation that occurred and would support that racism does exist in the Red Wing and system, and he changed the words of the letter I wrote and delivered it electronically, which met the conditions of mail delivery. By a vote of 5-2, as a school board chose to censor a school board member based on their behavior. Its president was established that evening. You now have the responsibility to follow the president and chose to set regarding all other negative behaviors of any school board member. Respectfully submitted, Liz Miguel. All right, got 2 more letters. Another one I chose not to do it because of some inaccurate information in it, but I've decided to now read it. We all got it. I'd like this letter read at the school board meeting on Monday, November 18th, 2024. I am opposed to the action by school board to censure a school board member. The U.S. Supreme Court in Houston Community College versus Wilson ruled March 24, 2022 that a school board member cannot be censured unless it's explicitly named in a school policy. Reading your school policy, this is not named. I do not condone breaking the law. That will play out in the courts where it should be. Shouldn't we be using our time in a more productive manner? Shouldn't we be using our time addressing more important issues such as increasing the competency rate in our schools? For district-wide, only 35.3 of the students were proficient in math, 39.7 in reading, and only 29 in science. Does this answer why we lost 100 students to different school districts and over $1 million in funding? Shouldn't we be using our time to make sure students feel safe in school? Why are the bathrooms, high school students afraid to use the bathrooms? Some of the current school board members have been outspoken against bullying behavior, yet at the same time they are members of a social group that bullies and attacks individuals. That type of behavior is spelled out in district policies. Why isn't that addressed? We all know that mental health is a very prominent issue that is experienced in many different ways by many people. The board talks about this as a priority, but does not set its example. I think it's important to reach out to the people and have compassion, not practice public humiliation and attack campaigns. Red Wing is a great place, a great city, a great place to live. Yes, we have some issues. We need to come together and support each other. We need to work together and unite behind positive action, not attacking or bullying. Let's start by pledging to oppose attacking and bullying. Let's agree to disagree and respect the way we work together. The great school system benefits everyone. Let's unite behind being positive. Gary Yackel, Red Wing resident. The only thing I'll say is why I didn't is because the U.S. Supreme Court did rule that school boards could censor a school board member. And the the competency rate district, we've had many discussions on, and those are the MCAs that we have 100 kids that take it and 50 choose not to take it. Those 50 is then a zero, so it's gonna automatically bring our scores down. Can we always do better? Yes. And then the bathrooms, I don't know where that come from because Mr. Fuchs and I talked again today about that. There haven't been any problems. Occasionally there may be a vaping, but they're vaping in public restaurants, other things. So, but he says there's been nothing going on in the schools and the hallways like they have maybe in the past, but things are going very well. And Mr. Yako is going to, I understand, entertain a visit with Mr. Fuchs on Thursday to make his first visit into the school. So you're welcome to do that. So I passed my 3 minutes. All right, we have another one here before we get to the one that we have here. My name is Bitsy Joy. I reside at 2342 Hallquist Avenue. I'm a graduate of Reading High School class of 1997. When I was a winger in the late 90s, I wrote a research paper on racism and the women's suffrage movement for my history class. It was hard to find information in the early days of the internet, and my primary source was Howard Zinn's People's History of the United States of America. I've been a student of anti-racism ever since, but for the most of my life, my privilege has allowed me to approach it from an intellectual standpoint. My understanding has shifted dramatically in the past 6 years as I've transitioned from trying to make sense of justice in my mind to reflecting on the ways that I uphold and benefit from the status quo of racism and the reflective actions of my body. Racism exists on the personal, interpersonal, systematic, and cultural level. The depth and complexity of its nature makes it hard to address because it requires deep and uncomfortable retrospect and community work to address it. In the Redmond community, it has been a constant presence since the city's founding of European settlers in the late 1850s, shortly before the Dakota War. As unsettling as it may be, this history is important to acknowledge and understand that we have any hope of addressing it in the future, the present and the future. 100 years ago, the Ku Klux Klan crosses on Can, Barn Bluff. Descendants of these crossbreeders still live in the community to this day. I don't say that because I want anyone to feel shame or guilt. I say this because the patterns in our past are very much present at this moment. It is easy to want to shut it out or run away to focus on the positive and deny the ongoing intergenerational impacts of racism and colonizer mindset that led to the creation of our city. The uncomfortable truth is that divisiveness and denial are habits of our white, middle-class, dominant culture that protect the status quo and undermine our collective desire to live in a community of care. Perfectionism, urgency, and expectation of comfort and fear of open conflict are all conditioned tendency of our dominant colonizer culture that stalls progress in addressing the systematic oppression that harms everyone in our community, regardless of race, class, or ethnic background. One of the great contradictions I regularly sit in is the knowledge that I both benefit and am harmed by dominant cultural norms. As most we live in the Reading community, it is necessary for me to sit in this liminal discomfort to show up in ways that align with my values rather than reflect my ingrained habits of harm. My question for the board and school admission is this: are you willing to sit in this discomfort with me? Can we have an honest and vulnerable conversation about the overwhelming nature of the task ahead? It will take generations to unravel the fabric of racism and settler colonial violence that informs our community norms. Are you willing to join in this lifelong work? With care and love, Bitsy Joy, Reading High School class of 1997. All right. Yes, racism is not part of what we want here. Okay, we have, I butchered your name here, I apologize. What's it? Amasa?
Amasaya.
Amasaya, Margaret Clay. I'm gonna read a little something here, okay?
Mhm.
You may have heard it before, you may not, who knows? The following guidelines will be followed during public comment. We expect that comments be limited to 3 minutes per person. The representative is selected to speak on behalf of a group of individuals attending the meeting for the same topic. School board members will listen to the public comments but will not discuss the topic at the meeting. The superintendent and/or school board chair may provide a response outlining steps the school district has taken or will take to address the concerns. A summary of the school district actions in the response to public comment provided to the school board, individuals submitting public comment and/or public at a later date as appropriate. We expect the comments remain respectful and appropriate and not identifying current or former students, their families, or staff members by name. Welcome. You understand all that? I rattled it off pretty fast. So,
Welcome.
go ahead.
My name is Amasaya and I'm 9 years old. Ever since my mom started going to the school board meetings, I've been asking her if I could come to speak. Now that I'm able to talk, I'd like to tell you how I've been feeling. I feel disappointed in a school system that doesn't protect me and makes me feel very good. It's hard to tell if they care that I am safe. It doesn't make sense why we don't have staff that look like me and teachers that look like me. This bullying and things happened on the bus has made me cry. It has made me feel bad about myself and my skin. Some days I feel like it's all my fault. I know I am different and I try to figure out a way for them to like me, but some just don't like me. It's stupid because they don't like the skin that I have. That's not fair. It's not fair to any kid that looks like me. Sometimes it's all I can think about. It's hard to see other brown kids getting picked on. Most are afraid to speak up. I worry a lot about my little sister getting picked on. When I wasn't in school, they picked on her in the bus, and it made my stomach hurt thinking that no one stand up for her. I knew that because those same kids didn't stand up for me on the bus. Some brown friends have said they are scared in the school. When I think about racism, I am disgusted and sad. No one gets to pick the body they are born into. So racism and being racist makes no sense. I love being my color, but it's like some people really want me to hate it. I really don't understand why. I'm only 9 and I see 3 different kinds of doctors and started having to take medicine every single night before bed, but they haven't made anything better yet. Nothing takes away the words they said to me. When I'm at school, it's super hard to learn now. I'm tired of sticking up for myself. I'm just a kid. You guys are the adults. Please do something to stop this bullying. Thank you for letting me speak and also listening to me.
Okay, we'll move on. Administrative reports.
Okay, so then lots of things have been going on. Well, at Cobble, so we have a voluntary pre-K program, so that's, we have 10 slots. And once that enrollment's been completed, we've also been working on the flyer registration forms. And gingerbread houses are a big deal during this season, so we're working on those. Sunnyside Grandparents' Day was out there just recently. It was on the 25th and 26th. That was fun. There was a lot of grandparents there, no doubt. They shared some songs. So good event. Lynn Lulick is visiting first grade classes from December 2nd to the 16th to teach students about a variety of musical instruments. So that should be something fun. And that's funded through a grant from the Red Wing Public Schools Foundation. At Twin Bluff, the FACS lab is completed. Everything looks good there. The ADA compliant kitchen is used, and kids have been in there and they've been busy. The trimester has ended on the 26th, and grade 6 had a successful trip to the state capitol and the history center on the 22nd. And the middle school band is performing right now. They just started in Hoppa Hall. And on Power View, the OK Factor performed for students at the Sheldon Theater Outreach Program recently. And there's going to be a bunch of kids that are going to do the zoo, so that'll be a good thing for them as well.
Very good. Any questions? Hearing none, move on to committee reports or committee updates.
I have one from Community Education Advisory Council. So I think it was at our last meeting, Superintendent Joshik sort of stole some of the thunder of this. Just the figures of how many people are served by community education, because they have an annual report that they do. So with the programs that they offered, it's 66,566 people. There are some duplicates, right? So if you signed up for a pottery class and you also went to a nature walk, you would be counted twice in that. But still pretty impressive that we had that many people take advantage of those programs. And then they also manage a bunch of special events and help with the facilities management or rental type things for the district. And the total hours of use that they coordinated was 58,304 hours of use of our district buildings during the non-school time. Their budget is being audited. It will come to us possibly next meeting. And one thing that's kind of important to know about the community education budget is that they are really siloed into 3 different funds. So there's early childhood, their general community education, and their adult basic ed. They can't really, at least the early childhood and the adult basic ed, those funds can't be used for other things. And also Red Bank's community education fund can't be used by the rest of the district. They all have to be kept separate by like state statutes. So we should get more information from them about their budget. And then their council, the next meeting for that is January 15th. I will no longer be on the board at that point. And assuming we probably won't have a new board liaison in place for that. So
I should go.
Can you go on January 15th?
Yes, I will go on.
Excellent. I will pass it on to them for you. That's it.
Thank you. Anybody else have any other? Yes.
There is an upcoming meeting on December 11th with the city about Jefferson.
Yep.
So we'll have an update after that.
3:30, I think, right?
Yep.
Okay, anybody else have anything else? Okay, move on to consent agenda. Anybody wish to have anything pulled? For further discussion?
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion by Ms. Tiff, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ossendorf. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Schoenfelder?
Aye.
Ms. Tiff?
Aye.
Ms. Ossendorf?
Aye.
Ms. Rowe?
Aye.
Ms. Bjornstedt?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Donations and grants. There are 3, American Legion Post number 54 donated $250 to the Redmond High School Food Shelf. MASMAS, and I can't remember what that acronym stands for, there is Minnesota Educational Facility Management Professionals. So Alan Gator, he had attended that conference. There's a drawing. He ended up receiving that drawing. Those have to be used for school district funds. So that's where those funds end up going. And various alumni, like one, $120 for the girls swim and dive. Very good. Very nice, generous donations. Thank you. And thank you to Mr. Galen for bringing his winning over, his gift over to the school district. So, for buildings and grounds. So, is there anybody wish to make a motion to pass the resolution?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Ossendorf. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Tiff. Any discussion? And none. Ms. Rowe? Ms. Ossendorf?
Aye.
Ms. Bjornstedt?
Aye.
Ms. Schoenfelder?
Aye.
Ms. Tiff?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you very much. Comprehensive Achievement and Civic Readiness Testing Report.
Good evening. I'm going to get my screen shared and then we will get started. As I do that, I am Emily Seafelt. I'm the Director of Teaching and Learning.
I'm Mick Wendland, Flight Path Coordinator, Redmond Public Schools.
So this is something we present always at first meeting in December. Before this year, it was called the World's Best Workforce Plan. And they changed the name this year and added one more performance measure, if that makes sense. So you're going to notice there used to be a literacy performance measure. That is not in here anymore. So all of these performance measures are picked by MD of what we need to report on. So it's now called the Comprehensive Achievement and Civic Readiness Report. So the first performance measure is all children are ready for school. This is a really important one because it's how students enter our district, but it's also one that we don't necessarily have a lot of impact on students in the way that we want to prior to them starting kindergarten. So a lot of our action steps are what can we do before students start. So if you look at this, our kindergartners with fall screening, which happens that second week of school, enter 46% proficient in literacy. So that's important to note because we're half of our students starting kindergarten start behind. And we're playing catch up a lot of the time. And so a lot of this is what can we do to help better prepare our students for kindergarten. And this also goes to when we talked about continuing to advocate for earlier learning with our state legislators. So we don't have any recent data on how many of our kindergartners attend preschool. The last time the state did that data was in 2017, and then it was in the 30% range. So we don't actually have our current one of that. We'd have to do it in-house. But that would be one of the things we talked about is how do we have preschool for all? And then also how do we collaborate with our community, both our families, our parents, our daycare centers, private preschools as well, about the different things that students need to be able to know how to do entering kindergarten. So there's a kind of a rule of thumb. You'll notice that our goal for this year is to get to 51%. 5% in a year is considered great growth. So it's not that we want to be at 51%, but if we could get to 51%, that'd be great. And then I also do break it down to the composite is the overall literacy score. Letter names, they were at 52%, and proficiency in letter sounds this fall was at 43%. So for all of those to grow by 5%. So that is the first performance measure. Do you want questions at the end, or you can ask me questions throughout as well? So just so you know, any questions on this one?
What? The group here, performance measure 1.
Yep.
That's just kindergarten?
All children are ready for school. So, yep. And all districts write their comprehensive achievement civic readiness report, and every district has the same 5 performance measures that we need to use. So you can write your goals on it. I read a lot of these, so all districts have to post these on their website. So I go and I read many other districts' ones as well. Some we tie ours to academics because that to us is all children are ready for school. Some actually to like attendance at kindergarten readiness events as well. So you are able to write your goal on what you want as long as it goes towards all children are ready for school. We use that metric of literacy as we know the importance of literacy starting for the rest of your life. So, yeah.
Yes.
So when we're talking about kindergarten at the beginning of the year,
Mhm.
knowing their letter names, should they be coming into kindergarten?
Not knowing all of them.
Yeah.
So this is benchmark. So it's not that they know 52% of the letters. They have 52% proficiency on the fall benchmark.
Right.
And that benchmark moves. So you could grow, you could learn more letter names than you knew in the fall and still technically go down because that benchmark is going to go up. That's a further discussion on assessments.
Right.
But
And then are they expected to know upper and lowercase letters?
yes. So any other questions?
Fine.
Okay. Performance measure 2 is closing the achievement gap among all students. You are going to notice that we switched the data for this goal to FastBridge. After our fall discussions, we had MCAs. Also FastBridge, we get that data throughout the year. We have our winter benchmark for FastBridge starting the first full week back in January.
So that's data that we use to help plan and grow and progress monitor our students. And MCAs is an end result that we get in August. So the goal is to reduce academic disparities by at least 5% in reading and math, from an average of 22% in reading and 26% in math. And this is a combined data for grades 2 through 10, because they all take the A reading and the A math. And you can see some of the action steps we've talked about throughout the years: the READ Act training, the UFly. We have our math pilot and implementation, math review, implemented BAR in grades 6 through 10, continue to work on our culturally responsive teaching practices, work to increase enrollment of students from underrepresented groups in specialized courses, such as concurrent enrollment in AP courses and honors courses as well, and the work of DEI. This isn't the data that we want. We want those gaps closed. We want all of those numbers high too. It'd be great some other time to really, as I've said, if we ever want to dive deeper at a workshop into data as well, to even see more trends, because this is generalized as well. Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about how you got the 22 and 20?
So what you do is the achievement gap is based on where white students are. So you have to subtract the difference of the proficiency levels between them and divide them by the total. So is how you get the gap.
Understand that?
Yep, I wanted everyone
Yeah.
to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how we got the average. And then the overall is just, for example, it's you do the 63 minus 34%. And so this is their proficiency levels. To get the achievement, you do some subtraction. So.
Thank you.
Performance measure 3 is all students are ready for career and college. So our goal is at the end of the 24-25 school year, 69% of graduates will have earned a credit, a high school credit, from a course that has the potential to earn a college credit. So there are a variety of different ways that you can earn a college credit while at the high school or in your high school career. So we have concurrent enrollment classes that are taught in the building by our teachers and offer college credit at the same time. Some students will elect to do PSEO. An AP course would also fall under this because it has the potential to earn college credit as well. For those of you that are frequent subscribers to this podcast, we used to have a larger number here where we had more of the articulated agreement opportunities that students could have to get college credit. So a lot of our FACS classes had that. So these are some of our technical colleges within the state of Minnesota. And a lot of those technical colleges have moved away from that opportunity. So it's not that we've changed what we're doing here. We're still offering the same rigor that met some of those same college potential opportunities. It's just that those colleges have moved away from that opportunity. And even for students that earn that articulated agreement, you had to go to that specific college. So I might get a 3-credit, or it might be a 3-credit class at Riverland College, and they might honor 2 of those credits. So I receive a pay reduction in my tuition. So it's still an opportunity, but a lot of the schools, including Minnesota State College Southeast, have moved away from that opportunity. So from previous reports, this number has gone down because we've lost that articulation agreement. Now we have had some new opportunities. Our new survey of chemistry course taught by Dr. Sormanen, available to all juniors, is now also a concurrent enrollment class. So a lot of students will be able to meet their college chemistry requirement while they're in their junior year. So the other one we have is the number of 12th grade students participating in internships. So we're looking at having 42% come this spring. We're on track for that right now. There's a lot of different things that impact whether a student will have the opportunity to have an internship. So one, if they've got room in their course schedule, if there's something locally that we have to offer. So I know one student is interested in film. There's not a huge film opportunity that's here. Sometimes for like our trade students, you have to be 18 to be on a construction site. There's employer interest and a number of different things that are involved there as well. So questions on either of those?
Questions?
The next one, performance measure 4, is all students graduate high school. So you will notice the years look a little bit interesting. Our students already graduated last year in May. We don't actually have that data. And it is something that MDE does because they follow a very specific 4-year graduation rate formula that is dependent upon like enrollment as a 9th grader. So we are writing a goal for something that technically already has happened, because our students already graduated in May. So it's always a year behind. The official data from MDE on that comes out in March. So our overall four-year graduation rate will be at least 95%, with individual racial and ethnic groups growing by at least 5% or achieving 95% graduation. I will tell you, in all areas of graduation, we are above the state proficiency in graduation. So that is our goal. You'll notice for if it says NA for any group, that's because the group was less than 10 that year, and the state doesn't report any data on that. I will also note this is a four-year graduation rate. So any of our students that are special education that receive services till 22 and graduate wouldn't be in this percent because it's more than 4 years. Same with anybody at Tower View that achieves their diploma in 5 or 6 years. There is a 5 and 6 year graduation rate we can look up. It's really high as well when you get to our 6-year rate, but this is a 4-year graduation rate formula. Questions on that?
Any questions? No?
Performance measure 5, this is the new goal that we have. It's to prepare students for lifelong learners. It has to be a separate goal from the other ones that were provided. As it's a new goal, there's not a lot of other websites that we can look to see what different districts have done in the past. So our proposed goal that we've gone with is that when our counselors are meeting with our seniors and we're talking about plans for after graduation, we just want to make sure that they have a plan for what they want to do next as some sort of vocational piece, and then also an area of personal interest. So as we think about being lifelong learning, yes, maybe I want to know more about construction. Yes, maybe I want to know more about education or healthcare. But is there something outside of my vocational aspirations that I also want to learn more about as well? So this will just be an embedded question within those senior meetings that students are excited to learn about other things as well. We have no back data on this. We'll see what comes out of it. But this is an area that we're already hitting all of our seniors and should have a way to provide a measurable goal that the state is looking for.
And it was a very vague area from the state, just prepare students to be lifelong learners. So I attended many meetings and people were like, what are you guys writing? Yeah. So this is where we landed for this year.
Doesn't lend itself to being a SMART goal.
It's not, does not lend itself to being a measurable SMART goal, no. And we landed here because some districts were doing off of ACT, which we don't find as a fair metric as well. It's an optional test that just because of different people's different choices past high school now, and most universities not requiring it, that we didn't think that was a great measurement of preparing students to be lifelong learners. And we didn't want to base it on another test.
Any questions? I got one, couple.
Yeah.
It all sounds really good. We have goals, we have targets, your action steps. But what are we really doing in the classrooms to help these kids? That's what people want to hear. You know, I mean, besides, you know, we have advocating for everyone for all state legislatures, you know, to increase use of career speakers and improve access to guidance counseling. What are, that's kind of an unfair question, maybe. What are our teachers really doing out there? Because I know they are doing stuff.
They're working incredibly hard.
Yeah, they are working incredibly hard. But we need to have these goals and this thing. But I think we need to get the message out there, what we're doing on, and getting families informed and involved, so we can get every student that wants to have an education. We should give them the best education we can give them. And I'm just more.
And I don't have an easy answer, only because what's happening in the classroom looks very different from kindergarten through 12th grade as well. And I will always note as well the 2 goals that are based on tests. Those are also, they're going to show the students that know how to test well, right? That's not going to always show the students' growth or their gifts or their talents or their proficiencies. That's going to show a kid that knows how to do that part well. And that's not going to be everybody. I think everybody can think of a student who's brilliant, but probably is not going to take a standardized test very well. And so that's our metric for that as well. And part of it is, how do we as a community get together and plan for the best for our students? As I said, when our students come in, based off the metric we have to use at 50% ready for kindergarten, we're playing catch up. And we think of it that way, they could grow a ton. They could get in a year or over a year's worth of growth in a year and still end that year behind. just because of the starting point as well. I had a conversation with Ms. Grove even earlier today of just how do we embed those academics beyond the classroom. We were talking about stuff we can do in Phi Ed and music, and just even things we've noticed of how getting that whole brain involved. We've noticed even some differences in like different things with the brain with students for crossing midline or just different things like that. And you can find research on the ability to cross midline and do these different things, and you're tied to your ability to read. So it's even noticing that those things and how do we build those strengths that also impact our academics as well. So I don't have an easy answer.
No, We've had
Yep.
staff come in here who, how they, the reading at the Burnside or the Sunnyside, the middle school, the things that are going to the high school here. A lot of great things are going on here. We don't always promote them the way we should, or better way we could. I'm not saying we're not. I'm just saying, a lot of, you hear a lot of negative stuff, but there's a lot of good stuff going on. I said this earlier. I'd like to keep going forward. Taking steps back is tough to keep going. So I've said this publicly, and I was out at Burnside the other day, based out in Sunnyside, that are working with these children that we get to come to come for an education, and I don't think we do enough to let people know what we're really doing to promote ourselves even more than we are, because a good community, a strong new school district in a community is a good thing. And I want that. I'd like to see that for everybody. So I'm off. I get off. Thank you very much for the presentation. Anybody else? I'm sorry. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay, we don't. Okay. Emily, does that require board action before submission? Okay.
Just presentation to the board.
Okay. All right. We talked about our email policy and public comment at the workshop. We asked to put it on the agenda today. So
the discussion that was held was, we looked at all the various schools within the area. We looked at probably 20 different schools, and the submission for public comment on emails started during the pandemic when the district was not able to meet in person. There was not another district anywhere that is currently allowing that, so the discussion was to be effective at the December 16th board meeting, or essentially after this, to cease that process. So if somebody wishes to provide public comment, we welcome that, but we encourage them to come in person.
Okay.
And this does not stop people from emailing the board as a group to make sure that we are hearing their questions or concerns, because raise your hand if you read the emails the public sends in. I mean, we all do. So, and we take those very seriously. So just because we are not going to read them publicly does not mean they are not given attention or consideration.
So we need to have a motion to come back with a full update on the policy on public comment part.
So I guess the motion, based on the discussion that was had earlier, was that at the conclusion of this board meeting, the Reading Public School Board will no longer accept emails for public comment submission.
Okay, well said. If that was a gist of our conversation. So anybody wish to make that a motion or not? Yes, you do what? Make a motion.
What Bob said.
Mr. Bjornsted,
Yeah, Jennifer, did you get it?
I've got it, yep.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Rowe. Any discussion?
I just wanted to point out that, like Jennifer pulled up the policy, 206, the public participation in school board meetings, and we don't have in there that we accept emails, so it's not like we need to change one of our formal policies, it's just changing our procedure.
Okay. Good point, thank you. Anybody else have anything? Anybody, any other comments? All right, we heard the motion, we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Schoenfelder?
Aye.
Ms. Ossendorf?
Aye.
Ms. Rowe?
Aye.
Ms. Bjornsted?
Aye.
Ms. Tiff?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you. We are gonna go into close, you wanna, yeah, let's go into close, we need a motion to go into closed session for, midterm superintendent evaluation. We got a motion to go into closed session. So is there a motion to do that?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Osborne, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Tiff. Discussion, roll call vote. Ms. Tiff?
Aye.
Ms. Bjornsted?
Aye.
Ms. Ossendorf?
Aye.
Ms. Schoen?
Aye.
Ms. Schoenfelden?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We'll be in recess. We'll come back out of closed session and finish up with the superintendent report and adjourn. So, thank you very much for coming this evening. We'll